Lesson 7.1, Multiplying Monomials. So if you notice in the rule here, if you have the same base, a and a, then what you do with the exponents is add them together. So what we're looking for is how to add exponents. So an example would be x squared times x cubed. You add that together and get 5. Now it also works if you have numbers. Say 2 cubed times 2 to the 5th. 3 plus 5 makes 8. Add exponents. Alright, I'd like you to try examples A through C. Okay, let's see how you did. So 7 to the 3rd times 7 squared. Add the 3 and the 2 is 5. 4 plus 1 for the exponents makes 4 to the 5th, and 4 plus 6 makes g to the 10th. Now for the number problems, you should work them out. If you use a calculator, 7 to the 5th power is 16,807, while 4 to the 5th power is 1,024. Numbers, you should work them out using the calculator. Alright, D. If you notice, this time the numbers are different, 3 and 7, and they don't even, so you can't exactly add exponents for numbers that are different. Instead, you just multiply them together. Now the exponents can be added. So 4 plus 5 makes 9. Now try to do E and F by yourself. Alright, so if you multiply the 4 and the negative 4 and the negative 6, you should get positive 24. And now let's add the exponents for the R. 1 plus 5 is 6. 2 plus 2 makes x to the 4th. And 3 plus 1 makes t to the 4th. And that's it. Now for F, there's a 5 and a 6. Multiply together makes 30. And then add c to the 1st with c to the 5th makes c to the 6th. And then multiply d to the 5th times d to the squared. Add those exponents and you get 7. Alright, next slide. Here we have an example of where there's 2 exponents but only one base. Now if there's 2 exponents, you multiply them together. So for example, if you have x to the 3rd squared, you take the 3 and the 2 and you times them together. Now that's different from x cubed times x squared, where you add them together and get 5. Notice that in the first one you have 2 exponents but only one base. So if you have 2 exponents and 2 bases, you add. 1 base, you multiply. 2 bases, you add. Alright, you should try to do A and B. Alright, so the first one, 4 times 2 makes 8. Now for B, you should multiply the 3 and the 4 together. 3 times 4 will make 12. Now the 5 should not be multiplied because again it has its own base. And you should add that together and get 17. Alright, let's take a look at C. Notice that there's a 2, 2, and a 4. We've got 3 exponents this time, but again, only one base. And when there's only one base, multiply the exponents. 2 times 2 times 4 is 16. And then you should use your calculator to work that out. So 2 to the exponent 16 makes 65,536. All right, you should try problems D, E, and F. All right, let's see how you did. 3 times 3 is 9, times 2 is 18. Use a calculator. 3 to the 18 power is 387,420,489. Now in E, there's two numbers that should be multiplied. The 2 and the 7, that makes 14, and then the second 2 is added to it and gives you a result of 16. And in the last problem, 8, 2 times 4 makes 8. 2 times 5 makes 10. 8 and 10 is 18. Hopefully now you can tell the difference from when you add exponents and when you multiply exponents. Let's go with the third slide. Here in the third slide, what we're saying here is if you have two things inside a parenthesis, or you can even have more than two things, if there's an exponent on the outside, that exponent has to go with all of the things in parentheses. It's kind of like distributive property. So if you have 3x and you want to square that, you need to square the 3, make it a 9, and square the x, which is x squared. Now if it has exponents already, for example like 5x to the third squared, you still square the number and make it 25, but you times the exponents and make it 6. Now, the easiest way to work this out is to do it one part at a time. So just for the moment in A, forget about the z and only focus on the 2. There's a 2 with an exponent 4. So that's going to be 2 to the 4th. Your calculator will tell you that 2 to the 4th is 16. Now, for the moment, let's forget about the 2. Z squared to the 4th power. When you have two exponents there, you need to multiply them. So that makes z to the 8. So your final answer is 16z to the 8. So if you use your finger, your pencil, or anything to cover up part of the problem at a time, that might help you figure out what steps to do first. All right. I'd like you to try to do problems B, C, and D. All right, let's take a look. I'm going to cover up the G for just a moment, and that makes 4 squared. Move and cover up the 4. 5 times 2 makes 10. 4 times 4 is 16, so 16 g to the 10th. Now let's come down here and look at C. Cover up the t for a moment. That's going to make 3 to the 4th. Cover up the 3. That makes t to the 4th. 3 to the 4th power is 81, so 81 t to the 4th. And lastly, down here, cover up the c for a moment. 2 cubed. Cover up the 2. Multiply those exponents. That's c to the 6th. Come over here. This becomes 3 to the 4th. Cover up the 3. 5 times 4 is 20. Now if I work out what the numbers are, 2 cubed is 8. 3 to the 4th is 81. Those numbers are going to need to be multiplied together. Because remember, I couldn't add their exponents because they were different bases. So 8 times 81 is 648. And then the exponents, 6 and 20, will be added, and I'll get c to the 26th. And that's your answer for that one. All right, the last slide has 4 more examples to try. So go ahead and pause here and attempt to do these 4 problems. First one is easier, with the last one usually being the hardest. If you can complete all of these problems, then any problem that you see on a quiz or homework, it should be a little bit easier and you should be able to handle them. Okay, let's take a look at the first one. So let's break this in 2 parts. Here's the first part. That's going to be 2 to the 5th, a to the 15. Now the second part. 3 cubed, a to the 3rd, b to the 6th. Remember, times the exponents. And if it doesn't have an exponent, make it the exponent on the outside now. Now let's work out the numbers. 2 to the 5th power is 32. 3 cubed is 27. We're going to need to multiply those 2 numbers together. That's 864. And then put the 2 a's together. 15 and 3. That makes 18. And the b is at the end. And that's the answer for A. All right, now the second one. Let's do the first part. 6 cubed, m cubed, n cubed. Everything got cubed. The second part. 5 squared, m to the 6th. Now let's work out what 6 cubed is. That's 216. 5 cubed is 25. Together that multiplies and makes 5,400. Now let's put the m's together. 3 and 6 will make 9. And then n cubed is at the end. All right, we're halfway done. Now, before I start the third one, I'm going to notice that I have 2 exponents out here. I'm going to go ahead and multiply them together and make that a 4. Now, I'm going to take that 4 and multiply it through. So 8 to the 4th. G, 3 times 4 makes 12, and H, 4 times 4 makes 16. Now the second part, 2 to the 4th, G to the 4th, and 5 times 4 makes H to the 20. I'll use my calculator to figure out 8 to the 4th power. That's 4,096. 2 to the 4th, of course, is 16. I'm going to multiply those 2 numbers together, and I'm going to end up with 65,536. Now I'm going to put my g's together. 12 and 4 will make 16. And my h's will go together. 16 and 20 will make 36. And that's the answer for C. All right, one last problem. Let's do the cubing part first. You need to cube the 1/2. You need to cube the 2. Multiply 2 times 3 is 6. And B is 2 times 3 is 6. Now the second part, notice that there's 2 2's out there. I'm going to go ahead and multiply that together and make it a 4. So I have negative 4 to the 4th and B to the 4th. Now it's time to multiply our numbers together. 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Now, negative 4 to the 4th power is 256. Now remember, you have to use parentheses because a negative 4 to the 4th power is always going to be a positive number. And then 1/8 times 256 is 32. And then A to the 6th, and then B, 6 plus 4 makes 10. And that's the final answer. So remember, if you have a negative number raised to an exponent, right here, a negative number raised to an exponent, you must use parentheses. If you don't, you will not get a positive 256. All right, I hope this was helpful.